Oh, live. Okay. I think I'm live. Oh, geez. Well, that was a little bit of a mistake on my part, everyone. My bad. Hi, Aunt Lee. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what I did wrong. Well, I started my painting. But that's okay, because I can just kind of go over it again. Okay, so welcome to my first ever live stream. It's just going to be probably like a 45-minute to an hour of me just doing a nice landscape. I was going to do something in my sketchbook, but I decided not to because I do kind of want to leave this dedicated to plein air painting, and so I figured I would just do something on a different piece of paper. Yeah, but I can't really plein air paint and go live at the same time. Or I probably could, but I don't know how. So for now, we're just going to do this. I did paint this last night. Just something like super quick. I think it was like 45 minutes long. But yeah. So let's see what this warning is I'm getting. Okay. Well, let's see. Okay. So I was explaining to, I guess, no one because I wasn't live, but I am first blocking in my painting, my sketch, with a very watered down, darker color, or not even darker color, but like a mid-tone. And I do it watered down because I'm just trying to block in the different areas of the painting. I don't need to worry about really getting the paint on there yet. I just want to get a generalized block in first of shapes and such. So that is what I'm doing right now. And I was gonna say something and I forgot. Oh yeah, just so you all know, I'm kind of sick, so I might sound kind of nasally, and it's because I am nasally. So yeah. So right here where I'm painting, kind of, it intersects with the sky. So I'm going to just do it kind of lighter right there, but honestly, like where it's all trees, I can kind of just go in and block in the green, because that is pretty much the main color. And I can just make some more green. I'm adding ultramarine and cadmium yellow. I think that makes a nice earthy green, and if I need to make it like kind of a more brownish green, I just kind of go for burnt sienna. And so right now my palette is titanium white. Oh, got a little pyrrole red in it. Cadmium yellow, pyrrole red, ultramarine blue, and burnt sienna. And so as you can see right here, you add a little bit of burnt sienna and it definitely earthens the tone, and I'll want to do that right where the path and the greenery, the ferns of my reference photo intersects, because it goes from a really bright green to a darker brown. So it's perfect for that. I can just clean my brush if I want to go back to this brighter green. And like I said, it's going to look messy, and it's honestly going to look kind of bad at first. But that's okay, because you go back in and you put more details in as you go. Now I'm thinking I probably should have taped this piece of paper down, but that's okay, because it doesn't need to be perfect. So I'm constantly looking back at my reference photo and just seeing if what I'm putting down on the paper makes sense. I think a lot of it is just understanding your reference photo, where the different colors are, where the shapes are, and going from there. I don't know if you can see, but my cat is in the background. She likes to usually be the center of attention, so I'm kind of glad she's calmed down a little bit. I love days like these when you really have no obligation to be anywhere and it's sunny out, you know, but it's too cold to like actually like have a prolonged period outside, so you don't feel as bad about being inside painting. Because I don't know about you, but whenever it's sunny and warm out, I usually want to be outside and feel bad for being inside. But not this time. And so I'll put a little bit of color. What's nice though is the color of the path is kind of like the color of the toned paper, so it makes it a little bit easier. And I think I'll use some burnt sienna, definitely some ultramarine blue, because that will kind of make it like a gray. So as you can see, I don't have black on my palette. I don't like to use black if I don't have to, as many of the greats will say, because you can make black. You can make black with ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And it's a nice way to not muddy up your painting, and also a nice way to only have to bring a few colors into your palette. So I did add a little bit of white, which I might regret, but that's okay. So it's a little too cool for me right now, because the path it's not straight up brown, but it's definitely not straight up gray either. So I can add a little bit of sienna back in. And I might even add a little bit of yellow. Too much yellow. That's the other thing. This yellow is very strong, so kind of have to be careful, but I'm kind of liking where this is going. So I'm going to roll with it. It says the stream, I don't know what any of this means. This is all new to me. If you're watching and it's lagging or something like that, let me know, because I will try to change it. I don't know. Yeah, so if I'm lagging, sorry. I'll figure it out next time. Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay, cool. So I will continue and not really worry about it. Next live, I'm going to try to see how to put up my reference photo. I'm still kind of learning all of this live stream technology, so my apologies if it's not very clear what I'm saying, but you can always ask questions. Antley, are you painting anything today? Are you trying to kind of paint along with me, or have you busted out those watercolors? I am certainly excited for warmer weather to come. I have so many ideas for. Okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're enjoying this. I'm kind of just, winging it here, so hopefully you're enjoying this. I'm glad you say you are. Yeah, I'm kind of nervous because I always get to like a certain part of the painting. I mean, right now the painting is just, ugly stage. I always have to tell myself, like, this happens every time. You want to quit every time. But most of the time, it turns out actually pretty good. You just have to keep going. In the reference photo, there's, yes, color theory is certainly a hard one. But once you learn it, it's like kind of second nature. And that'll definitely be helpful in terms of when you're trying not to muddy up the painting, is, knowing how to manipulate the colors and what colors mix well with others. Because some colors, they're more opaque or stronger than other colors, and if you mix them, or if the canvas or whatever the paper is too wet or something of that nature, they can get muddy really quick, and it'll make the painting just not seem cohesive. So that's also the good thing about using not as many colors in your palette. It's, you can really learn how to manipulate those colors in particular, rather than having a ton of different colors at once, which I like. I love a limited palette. There's a lot you can do with it, so. And I'm using just like a very cheap piece of tile that you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's, whichever is nearest you. It is really easy, actually, to paint on, and then you can just clean it right off and start anew and not have to waste any sort of paper or anything like that. So, yeah, what I'm doing is wet on dry, yes. This paint is actually gouache, and it dries extremely fast. It's a lot like watercolor in terms of, you can use gouache pretty much just like watercolor if you are watering it down as you go. So yes, this is wet on dry. So if I were to do wet on wet, I would basically saturate this whole piece of paper, or this whole block, and I would then paint right on that, and that would be wet on wet. But because I'm kind of letting the paint dry as I go, it is considered wet on dry. In terms of like if I were to be using just watercolor. All right. This is actually, it's funny, it's more difficult to talk while I paint than I anticipated it being. I'm not sure why. And because it's kind of driving me crazy, I'm gonna put, oh, that was way too much blue. I'm gonna put a little bit of the sky in so that I just have a little bit of a reference. And I'm just gonna use some white and some ultramarine. So it's very, very bright right here. This is the brightest spot of my picture. Pretty much the rest is like in shadow because it's a wooded path. It's where we stayed a few years ago. Silly question, what is gouache? Oh, that's not a silly question. It is an opaque kind of watercolor. So basically it's like watercolor pigment, but like with added white. So it is much more opaque than watercolor, and you can kind of use it. A lot of people who are oil painters like to use it for studies for future oil paintings, because not that it acts like oil in any way, because it does not, but it kind of gives a look of oil. And the one good thing about gouache that is really interesting is it can reactivate like watercolor with water, so you can manipulate it really easily, and it's really good for, I'd say it's really good for plein air painting, like out, you know, if you were to go to the beach or something and paint like I did when we were together. It's a lot more easy to drag around than oil paint is, because, you know, oil is a lot more finicky and it does not dry quickly. So you have to be careful with that. You have to be careful with travel. It's also more toxic. So a lot of people like to use gouache instead because of that purpose. Another thing is it dries flat. There's no real gloss to it like acrylics. So people like to use that in that way too, because they like the flat texture that it gives. And that's Sienna. She loves, like I said, she loves to be the center of attention, so. Or maybe I wasn't live yet when I said that, but. I know. I'm gonna try to get like some shadow effect. Yeah, she needs to help. Yeah. Gotta make sure I'm doing everything right. And then, you know, once you add white though, with watercolors, you're probably not gonna add a lot of white. Well, you're gonna use the white of your paper, or the lightest part of your paper. So like if you were to use a toned tan paper like this, you know, you would use just the tan part of the paper for your white. So with this, it's a little different, and you do have to be careful not to reactivate it when you're putting pigment on top of it, because it will kind of chalk up your color. So just like it's doing right here, so I'll have to go in later on with more. but that's okay. So these are going to be darker because they're farther into the path. And then I'm really only doing a few like I guess I don't know what word I'm trying to use. A few trees that are really not even detailed, but like you can tell that it's a tree. Otherwise, most of them are just going to be suggested because there's so many of them. You can't do every individual tree. You'd go insane. Or at least I would go insane. Maybe you wouldn't go insane, but that's just me. I'm also mainly just using this flat brush because I don't want to get too into detail. Like, I don't want to be sitting here forever with every detail. I just want this to be like a quick 45-minute study. So it's easier to stay that way if I'm using just a flat brush like this. Because you cannot get details with it. Well, you could, but you'd be sitting here forever, and nobody wants to do that. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. I can't speak for others. I can only speak for me. And on a study like this, I do not want to be sitting forever. So yeah, I'm just kind of suggesting some shadow or darker values. And I'm, again, constantly looking back at my reference. I'm not trying to make it exactly like my reference. I know that's not going to happen, but I do like to keep going back to it, so I know I'm not like making up anything in my head of what's actually going on. And really, when I'm sketching out for things like this, I spend maybe 5 minutes on the sketch, because I am not, I don't want to get held up just by the sketch of the painting. I want to get into the nitty-gritty and just go, go, go. And this is really good practice for plein air painting because I'm trying to... The round brush scares you. Why does it scare you? Like something like this? I think it's gonna go. No, maybe not. No, round brushes are fun, see? I'll use it just for this purpose right now. Round brushes are good. So this is a bigger round brush. This is a size 8. And for something like this, it's actually kind of big because this is a very small amount of space that I'm working with. But it's good, though, because this has a really nice point to it. And so you can get actually a lot of detail in. But if I was trying to get detail. And then you can put in like little highlights to show like the sun is like coming through the trees as you come down the path. How's the video quality? Can you see pretty well, or is it kind of blurry? I'm just curious how it's working out, because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing, what marks I'm making. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a little bit of a lighter green because the ferns out front are lighter. I have white, but I'm going to try not to use white as much as possible until I really need to, because the white, like I said, chalks up the color a little bit, and I really don't like that effect. I find it to be, I don't know, it doesn't look realistic anymore. It doesn't look like an earthy green anymore. But that's okay, sometimes that's not what we're looking for. Except when you zoom in. Okay. You know, if you are looking to make straight lines with the round ones, you can always use, excuse me, you can always use some sort of like straight line to, you know, like a piece of paper or something like that, and kind of use that as a guide. I've done that before, especially if I'm painting buildings or something like that. Another way to lighten up the color you're using is, instead of using white, just use more of the lighter color you're mixing with. So I'm mixing with ultramarine blue and cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellow is the lighter color, and I just added some, and it made it a little bit lighter, as you can see. But eventually I am probably going to have to add a little bit of white for the highlights. And if you're just joining me, I just want to say hello, and feel free to say hi in the chat. And let me know if you want me to paint something specifically. I probably have a reference photo for it. Right now I'm doing like a wooded path that inspired me when I was in the Adirondacks. It was actually kind of a creepy wooden path. Felt like you were in a horror movie, but it still inspired me. I mainly work on, my main medium that I work with is watercolor. Today I decided to do some gouache because why not? And also people on Instagram voted for it. And you give them what they want. Okay. I'm going to go back to my flat brush, because why not? Actually, I'll put the paint I'm using right here. I'm also going to figure out how to play some music while I'm doing this, because I know it's pretty boring without any noise and with just me speaking. Especially sick me speaking. This is not what I usually sound like. But whatever's going around my area has finally made it to me. And actually, I don't feel like doing that right now. I've never actually painted with other people. It's such a solitary hobby. So doing this with, I mean, and even if it's just like a very small audience, it's still very new to me. And it's kind of hard to focus. Not in a bad way, just new. And I am distracting. Yeah, it could be for sure. I was thinking maybe like, I don't know, just instrumental, not like Taylor Swift or anything like that. Just trying to see what other artists do during their live streams. Take some hints from them. Not that I would put Taylor Swift on, because I'm not a Swiftie. No, I'm just kidding. Who cares? I don't hate her. I don't love her. All right. It's also very okay if something's not working out to acknowledge it and know that you tried and just go to the next one. I've never done, honestly, a wooded path before, and I chose to do it on my live, and I'm totally okay with the fact that if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I know my abilities, and I know if I sat here for hours, I could make it look the way I want it to look, but I also don't need to, because it is what it is. I'll add a little white here, even though I don't like to. That's the other thing about gouache that is a little bit tricky. Gouache dries a different color, a different value, actually, I should say. And so sometimes it can be kind of hard to predict what it's going to look like. What it looks like dry is not what it always looks like. Not always what it looks like. What am I saying? I don't know. I guess I'm tired too. So you do have to kind of take into account that aspect as you're painting. So sometimes you think, oh, this is the perfect color, then you let it dry, and then you're like, actually, definitely not. And you either have to lighten it up or darken it a little bit. I find with gouache, it's a challenge sometimes to get the lightest lights and the darkest darks. And you're just constantly having to either add or subtract the white. I'm going to add a little bit of white to this green. And if I don't like the color, I can manipulate it a little bit. But I do kind of like it, because over here, it's definitely a little bit brighter. It looks like the sun is hitting them a little bit more. So this is one instance where, you do want to take into account depth. And so, because it's going farther in towards the path, I'm making the leaves look a little bit smaller. And I'm also gonna suggest the sun is coming in right there. Because it is. We like to try to get to the Adirondacks. Oh, I don't know, once or twice a year. It is one of our favorite places. This is near Upper Saranac Lake. I can't remember the name of it, of where we stayed, but it was a really cool place. It was like a retreat with a bunch of different cabins and right on the lake. It's really nice. Like, see, this dried. I thought this was a lighter color, but now it's dried. Much darker than I wanted to. So, it's all a balance, but, yeah. You know. And back here, it's pretty green. And I'll go back in with some more of the brown to suggest more trees. Suggest. It's all a suggestion. I think my next live, I'm definitely going to maybe work on a little bit bigger of a piece, who knows? But I'll probably do a vote again. These leaves are very big here and small. So now I'm going to do a little bit more on the path. This is another thing I do. I jump around quite a bit. Like I don't stay working on one section of the painting. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. But if I see something that I want to change, a lot of the time I'll just go ahead and do it regardless of if I was working with the greens or not. And so like I see one of the trees has a bit of a reflection on it from the sun, so I'll go ahead and maybe put that. Alright, just want to make sure everything is going well, and if it's not, like if you can't hear me very well, let me know, and maybe I'll try to make it a little louder. I do tend to kind of like, I don't know why, but I tend to like kind of whisper. And there's like these pebbles. They have like some reflected light on them. So we'll just suggest those because it is a dirt path. And there's a lot of light right here, so I'm just going to come in and maybe block in some lighter areas. And we can go back and put more pebbles if we want, but right now it's not that important. And I'm going to actually just go right in here, get some more blue, get a little bit more yellow, not too much more because I do want it to be a little bit of a darker green. Oh, perfect. Glad to hear it. I want it to be darker, so I'm doing more blue. And I'm actually, now that I think of it, I'm going to put some blue on the trunk of this tree to darken it up a bit because I'm looking at it and it's not really all that brown. It's definitely could be, yeah, I like that better. And when I put the highlights in, it'll look a little less weird. Benji's barking because he doesn't like the FedEx driver. It's pretty much only the FedEx driver he doesn't like. Other delivery drivers are fine. It's FedEx that he's got a problem with. So I don't know what they did to wrong him, but he does not like them. Now I'm just putting in more color because I see there's more greens right here. Uh-oh. Where did that go? What's going on here? See, I knew something would go wrong. I really don't even know how to fix this problem. All right, well, I might have to stop this live early if I can't get my camera to go. Let's see if we can fix this. Sorry for anybody who just joined. You can't see my camera. And if anybody knows why this is happening, you let me know. Gotta love technology. I don't know why that is. but I knew something would happen eventually. I'm gonna stop this live then, I guess. I'm sorry to stop it early, but I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, let's see. Let's make me bigger for now. So we're not looking at that. It is charged. It's on. It's the connection that I think is bad. Let's see. Which is strange because I am connected to this. My camera is connected. It's so strange. I don't really know why that is happening. Cam Link Pro. Because I look at that, the Elgato camera hub, and I am connected. Well, that's very frustrating. Let's see.